They thought we were an easy target. A fake HOA, a few trucks, and a garage door they figured they could smash through without consequence. But what they didn't count on was my son, 16 years old, trained and calm under pressure, stepping up when they came for our home. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. For months, our so-called HOA had been nothing but trouble. The truth is, it wasn't even a legitimate homeowners association. It was a group of neighbors led by a woman named Mara Bell, who acted like the neighborhood was her personal kingdom. She and her little crew printed fake violation slips that looked halfway official, stamped them HOA enforcement, and shoved them in mailboxes like they had any real authority. At first, I laughed it off. But then the fines started stacking up. $200 fine for having an unapproved mailbox. $500 fine for leaving my truck in the driveway. $1,000 fine for adding solar panels to my roof. None of it was legal. I double-checked property records with the county. There was no registered HOA here, no binding CC&Rs, no legitimate enforcement body. These were just bullies playing dress-up with clipboards and fake authority. When I confronted Mara, she didn't back down. She sneered and said, "You either play by our rules or we'll make your life miserable." That was the moment I realized it wasn't just about money, it was about power. Here's where things take a turn. I'm not some rookie homeowner. I served in the Army, and when I came home, I made sure everything I owned, including my firearms, was by the book. One of those is a semi-automatic AK-74, legally registered, locked, and secured. I raised my son Cole with the same values I live by: discipline, responsibility, and respect for weapons. He's 16 now, and while other kids his age are glued to video games, Cole has the composure of a soldier in training. So when Mara's fake HOA decided to push harder, they couldn't have picked a worse target. Lisa and I had to travel out of state for a business trip that weekend, leaving Cole at home. We weren't worried. He's independent, responsible, and knows how to handle himself. We figured at worst, he'd find another bogus citation taped to the garage when we got back. But Mara wanted more than fines. She wanted to break us. That Saturday, 2 trucks rolled up in front of our house, engines revving, headlights cutting across the driveway. Neighbors later said it sounded like a demolition derby warming up. Their plan? To ram through my garage door and teach me a lesson. But they weren't ready for Cole. The first truck didn't hesitate. It barreled forward, smashing into the garage with a deafening crash that rattled windows across the block. Metal screamed as the door crumpled inward, drywall dust pouring down like smoke. The sound alone was enough to freeze most kids in their tracks. But Cole wasn't most kids. He stayed calm. He'd been trained for calm. From inside, he heard their laughter, that ugly, triumphant kind of laugh that comes from people who think they own you. Derek, Mara's right-hand man, stepped out in a black vest with HOA stenciled across the chest in cheap white paint. He had a crowbar in one hand, clipboard in the other, like this was all just another inspection. His buddy, shorter and meaner, hopped out of the second truck and circled toward the side of the house. "Final notice," Derek barked, loud enough for half the street to hear. "Garage in violation. Property condemned." Neighbors peeked through blinds. Some even stepped out onto porches, phones raised but hands shaking. Everyone knew this wasn't real. Everyone also knew Mara and her crew had been getting bolder. Upstairs, Cole moved with purpose. He pulled the duffel from the closet, the one I had told him only to unzip if the fight ever came to our door. He strapped on the level 3 plate carrier, adjusted the shoulder straps, slid on gloves, and loaded the AK-74. He checked the chamber, clear, then slid the magazine home with a clean, practiced motion. He wasn't chasing violence. He was holding the line. Outside, Derek's partner swung his crowbar at the side door, splitting wood with every hit. "Get out here, kid," he yelled. "Tell your daddy his little shed cost him everything." Then he dragged the metal edge down the siding, carving deep, jagged scars in the wall. That was enough. Cole stepped onto the porch. 16 years old, but steady as if he'd been standing guard his whole life. Rifle angled down, finger straight, voice level. "This is private property," he called out, every word sharp. "You've already committed felony destruction of property. Leave now before you add more charges to the list." Derek turned, smirk spreading across his face. "Or what? You'll call the cops." "Kid, we are the cops." Cole didn't blink. He shifted his stance, lifted the rifle just enough, and fired a single round into the gravel at Derek's boots. The crack ripped through the air, dirt spitting up across Derek's pants. Every porch light snapped on. Neighbors gasped. Someone shouted, "That boy's got every right!" For the first time, Derek's grin faltered. His partner froze mid-swing, eyes darting from the rifle to the street. The truck's engines idled like beasts ready to charge. but neither man made a move. Cole held firm, voice steady. Next round won't be a warning. If you're enjoying this HOA story so far, like and subscribe because the story is only going to get better. The tension on the porch felt like it would split the sky. Cole's stance never wavered, rifle steady, eyes sharp. And then, finally, the sound that made everything else freeze. Sirens, distant at first, then screaming down the street. Two sheriff cruisers skidded into the driveway, lights blazing, doors swinging open. Deputies poured out, hands on holsters, eyes scanning the chaos. Derek and his partner froze. The trucks idled, engines trembling under their feet. Cole lowered the rifle slightly but didn't let go. "Step away from the property," one of the deputies barked, authoritative, professional. "Hands where we can see them." Derek stammered. We're HOA enforcement. This is legal." The deputy didn't flinch. "Impersonating an officer is a felony. You're both under arrest for trespassing, criminal mischief, and impersonating officials." It hit them like a tidal wave. Mara's fake enforcement, the threats, the destruction of property, it all evaporated under the real law. The deputies cuffed Derek and his partner, reading them their rights while neighbors watched, jaws dropped. Phones recorded every moment. The viral potential alone was staggering. Cole stepped back, letting the deputies take over, shoulders relaxing for the first time in hours. By the time Lisa and I returned that evening, the sun was dipping below the horizon. Cole met us on the driveway, calm but tired, arms crossed. The deputies briefed us on the situation. Mara Bell and her crew were all facing multiple charges: felony criminal mischief for smashing the garage, trespassing, and the big one, impersonating officials. The HOA, it wasn't legally recognized. It had zero authority, which made everything they'd done not only void, but actionable. I immediately started documenting damages for the lawsuit. The garage door totaled, siding scratched, and interior damage from drywall dust and debris. Estimated repair costs topped $8,500, plus compensation for emotional distress caused by the harassment and threats. The HOA, Mara personally and anyone tied to her fraudulent association, would be named in a civil suit for restitution. The law didn't care about intimidation or fake fines. It cared about actual property rights. Neighbors came by offering support, taking statements, sharing video footage. Cole smiled quietly, exhausted but proud. I felt a surge of gratitude, a mix of relief and admiration for the boy who had held the line. Maribel eventually called, screaming, demanding we drop the charges. I calmly reminded her that the law doesn't negotiate with imposters, threats, or vandals. The deputies agreed. She had crossed the line. By the end of the week, the HOA was effectively dissolved, not by a vote, but by legal reality. The county confirmed that no binding homeowners association existed here. Mara faced criminal charges, and the lawsuit would ensure restitution for all damages, fines, and harassment. Standing in front of our repaired garage, I clapped Cole on the shoulder. "You did good," I said, voice thick with emotion. "Better than I could have hoped." He shrugged, looking out over the street. "Just did what had to be done, Dad." And that was the end of their reign. Finally. The law had caught up with them, the HOA was toast, and we could finally breathe again.